What's going on? How we doing? Today's been extremely hectic. Just added a little sprinkle on top. Sick. Yeah, today's been extremely hectic, and I don't really have too much time to sit down and make a video, so I'm just gonna do a little vloggy poo on my way home, and just cover GameStop real quick. No graphics, no fancy stuff. Don't forget to sign up at onlyflows.app. Link in description per usual. Stock market data, dark pool data, options data, you get the gist. So, yeah, I'm not planning to make this a regular type of content. Maybe I'll make a second channel for these little musings, but yeah. So GameStop today, I think, closed down about 10%. There was a slight recovery. It had gapped down overnight because futures tanked over 0.5%, and GameStop saw some sympathy with that. I talked about how I wanted to see GameStop have some independence of the overall, market sentiment, as in if the indices are going down, that GameStop goes up, or if indices are going up, then GameStop goes up with it. Albeit it's not necessarily independence, but you get the gist. And that's because when GameStop is following things like indices, that's normally a symptom of passive bidding, which is not symptomatic of any form of short squeeze activity. Not that there can't be, but 9 times out of 10, that means that whoever is short is not too concerned about their position. And that segues into kind of another thing, which is there's a lot of really in-depth, really awesome market plumbing stuff that some content creators out there are doing, involving like the UBS swaps and the T+1 settlement thing. The thing I want to comment on is I'm not so much concerned about that stuff anymore. Not in terms of how the chart connects to like what the catalyst is. The stuff for settlement and FTDs. FTDs are kind of an exception, but these market mechanics, market plumbing things, they still interest me, but that's not really where my forecasting comes from. And that's just because I've learned to simplify a lot of how I evaluate plays, how I evaluate stocks. So at some point I'll cover all that stuff, in short, full pun intended. T+1 settlement should maybe have some effect, but it's the same process that everyone is suspicious of, just with half the amount of time. So it doesn't really do much for me. I don't think you're going to see much change. I still need to watch Charlie's video about it. I'd be very interested to hear what he says. I bet he says the same thing. Yeah. I don't... For those who are not familiar, every transaction in the stock market, or just about every transaction, involves buying or selling of something, and that buying or selling of a security has up to T plus 2 settlement days, or 2 days to settle. So T being the day of the trade plus 2. And that's how it used to be up until today, where now it's T plus 1. So it's the same thing, just half the amount of time. Doesn't change the issue. Technologically, we're at a point where instant settlement is not too out of the question. It needs a lot of testing, and I would not rush into it. Financial markets are very, very sensitive things. So that's about all I got for that. We'll do some more in-depth stuff. The swap things and all that, it's interesting. I don't have my... And if you don't pull over for law enforcement or emergency medical services or anybody who takes care of your city, you're an asshole. All right. So today, though, call premiums were really in the toilet. somebody closed out like 2 or 3 mil, I think, of calls around like 11 o'clock, 11:30 Eastern, which was not a good sign. GameStop still follows Flux extremely well. All of the options activity is being used as a proxy to create liquidity in the underlying, and you're seeing market makers, hedge their customer positions, and customer positions are things like you and me. When we buy a call, it's not us buying from someone who's selling a call. That is one out of maybe 3 market makers that exist for options who take the other side of our trade. So they are short a call. And when the market moves up, or when the stock moves up, well, now they have to buy the stock because they sold you something that now has increased value, because the thing you purchased represents up to 100 shares. And that's, again, a big reason why I've always been a huge advocate for options. You can use the same amount of buying power while, potentially creating 100x amplification. If you buy a call with a 0.01 delta, there's some light for you. If you buy a call with 0.01 delta and the thing goes in the money, well, then it has a 1.0 delta, which means that contract now represents its full 100 shares because it's in the money, which means you are now eligible to exercise said option. Yeah, pretty cool. Anywho, so with the big selling of the calls, that was a little concerning, but not end of the world. Dark pools were pretty bearish today. There were some buyers showing up that were hitting that dark tape, but as the market continued selling off, the selling persisted, and then you saw like Nvidia and I think Microsoft barely moving up. The rest of the market was either flat or just trending slightly down. So today was definitely an odd day, low volume. We need markets to catch back up, or we need fundamental news of some sort as a catalyst to kind of get that next impulse to push this thing up. That's about it. Got some really cool OnlyFlow stuff for you though. It's coming along real well. We had a little internal meeting today, and we're all pretty happy. Yeah, we only got 8 minutes, so I don't know. I'll chit chat a little more. The current state of affairs regarding like DRS, settlements, swaps. There's a lot of things that exist in Wall Street that are potentially exploited. I feel as though the impression that retail, and when I say retail, it's not like I'm separating myself from retail. I am retail. I'm referring to a collective. I feel like retail becomes too hyper-fixated on these things, and as a result are spread too thin. Things should start at the failure to deliver level, first and foremost. Second thing would then be ATS, alternative trading system, data. And then the third thing should be over-the-counter derivatives. And I've said this a lot of times, and because of how chaotic I was and how my life was, it was never really said concisely and with some intent, some deliberacy. Is that a word? Deliberacy. I feel like that's a word. I wasn't very intentional with it, so I'm going to be intentional this time around. The naked shorts that truly existed, okay? This happened twice. One time on GameStop, one time on AMC. GameStop was the only thing that confirmed to have a short interest greater than 100%, and that was from the exchanges. So something that people get confused about with short interest data is, how come one place says X and then another place says Y, and then another place randomly says 69,000% short interest? Well, that's because short interest is not a singular figure. Short interest comes from a myriad of internal clearing. Forgive me, that's not the right term for it. But if a brokerage has, like Robinhood, for example, we can have, at the end of the day, a total of 1 million stock being purchased by Robinhood customers, and then 500,000 stock being sold by Robinhood customers. So what that nets to is 500,000 plus, right? Or plus 500,000 shares. And then intervallically, companies like Robinhood will go and then buy those shares from the market, or they'll source it. And I'm using Robinhood just as a insert here example. Robinhood sells their order flow. So you have these things. I'm calling it internal clearing. I can't remember what the term is for it, but or an internal settlement. The CNS, the continuous net settlement, works like this, but serves as the umbrella. So you have all these different brokerages, all these different trading systems, and they go about netting, at the end of the day and then the end of the week, and then that's when they go and source what's outstanding as a net. So with that being said, short interest also works in the same way. So short interest on Interactive Brokers is its own data point. The total short interest has Interactive Brokers as a fraction of that total calculation. So IBKR might have 10% of the float sold short. And then someone like Webull will have 5%. And when you add those things up, they come out to 15%. But IBKR is going to tell you 10%. Webull will tell you 5%. Stuff like that. And those aren't to scale. I'm just illustrating how all this ties together. So now we're another layer back into where this all started. We're almost back to the top of the surface. So short interest, that's how that works. And with I just had it. Forgive me, I just had it. I've gotten really good at being able to go layer by layer, cascading by an idea, and then working my way back up. And evidently I'm not able to do it right now. So we got to short interest and then settlements. Oh yeah. So there were 2 real episodes of naked short selling. One was on GameStop, which was January of 21, and then the other was AMC back in we're back to home base here. AMC in July of 2023. So GameStop in January of 21 was confirmed to have over 100% short interest, and I explained why that was possible. The reason why it was so significant is because the exchanges themselves reported that. So you have like Robinhood and Webull as an example. Every 2 weeks, the exchanges themselves that the securities are listed on will have an official short interest report. And that's when all these different parties report their level of short interest or shorting activity, however you want to quantify that. And when the exchanges come out and say that it's over 100%, that's like the number. That is the creme de la creme. There are some private data vendors who pay hefty premiums to get data that is more discreet, that isn't submitted directly to exchanges. But in general, when the exchange says yes, there is more than 140% of the stock sold short, that's incredible. And as I learn more and more, that concept of an exchange, a stock exchange, saying there's more than the total float sold short continues to baffle me more and more. So what happened is the buy button was turned off, but the sell button was not. All right, we're back at home base here. I've said for a while, just without clarity and some patience with myself and people who watch me, that I believe that all of the real naked shorts in January were bought back because retail was only allowed to sell. So retail bought all these things that weren't supposed to be in circulation. So instead of letting them buy more of those things, naked shorts, now they can only sell them, which means that naked shorts are naturally being pressure relief valved from the system. That's the first one. And that's really fucked up. It's really messed up. And nobody, I think, quite realized that. The kind of like 1.5 version of that, or like bullet point 0.1 and then 1.5, I would say is there is the potential that certain financial entities reached out to those who did sell short without a locate, that reached out and offered their holdings that they were long with as a loan of stock to satisfy their borrows and locates for a premium. If you've ever seen the show Billions, it's like that when somebody tries to blow up Axe with that. I think it was a shipping company. No, it was whatever the company that the Attorney General was long on. Anywho, they saw this naked short seller in distress, so they said, "Hey, we're actually long this thing." They probably squeezed them to begin with, and we happen to have the amount of shares you need, and then some. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let you borrow these shares, and the current market rate for interest on a loan of GameStop is 50%. We're gonna do it for 400. And then as soon as you're ready to satisfy that balance, we will relieve you of that obligation. And then that's why I think the squeezes happened in February, a little bit in March. That was an oddball one. A little bit in April, but then end of May came about, and then June. Those were those little settlement, those pseudo, like unofficial settlement windows that were agreed upon between these institutions. So the second one was AMC, which was in July of 23. If you go back a little bit in the channel, OnlyFlows was making its way, and I made this tool that let you see dark pool activity and failure to deliver volume, and failure to deliver volume as a ratio to total day volume. And what this means in English is, God, I wish I was editing this. I would, at some point, I'm going to reference this as a clip. If you go to YouTube and look up, I'm in like a referee jersey, and I have the glasses, the Dahmer goggles. You'll watch 30 seconds of that clip, and you'll see the chart of AMC, and then all these purple bubbles that are huge, right? And what these represent is, out of the total volume on that day, how much of that volume was failure to deliver. And stocks like Tesla maybe saw like 0.2%. Even things like your BlackBerries, your Nokias, I think even GameStop was relatively low. But AMC was like 80%, 90%. The total day's volume was all naked short sold. And OnlyFlows was at a very infant state at the time, but was gaining its legs and getting some traction. And what I put together was this option expiration tool. And put simply, calls typically mean things go up, puts typically mean things go down. When you buy a bunch of calls or you buy a bunch of puts, when those begin to expire, if they are close enough to the money or in the money, those eventually start to lose value very quickly. And what that means is the market maker, the dealer of those options, gets to unwind their position. So we were talking about earlier, if I buy some calls with a 0.01 delta and it goes in the money, that becomes a 1 delta. Well, now it's doing that in reverse. So as that delta goes from, let's say, 0.95, and now we're at the day of expiration, even though it's really close to the money, because there's only 2 hours left of the contract's lifetime, that 0.95 can quickly go to a 0.2. And that means that the dealer will actually start to sell the stock that they were hedging with. So they would sell 75 shares in that case per one contract. When when option expirations come about, that's what happens. So the general intent of the thing, like a call, will have the opposite happen. So calls typically go up. When expiration comes along, if they're close enough to the money, those calls will push the thing down if they're not in the money. So I put together this little tool, and AMC had like 75% of its float locked up proverbially, inside of all these put options that were expiring on the week of July 23rd, I think. And at the beginning of the week, I made a tweet and I said, there is an absurd amount of puts expiring that are in, at, or near the money. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm quoting this fucking verbatim, by the way, wouldn't be surprised if there was headlines about the lawsuit, the pending lawsuit, which had to do with if AMC really got to convert APE or AMC into APE and then APE back into AMC. And guess what happened right at the close of Friday, right? In the tweet, I said I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bunch of upward movement, and it was relating to the lawsuit. AMC jumps 130%. Okay, I bought calls. I was fucking broke. Okay, broke. And I said, of all the money I have that isn't gonna be put into servers, I'm gonna take some calls because I believe in this. The thing jumps 130% in after hours. And guess what was the catalyst? The judge temporarily denied the proposal to amend AMC into APE as a convertible security. And what that meant is all of these days on AMC where 80%, 85%, 90% of the day's volume was failure to deliver, all of that had to be bought back. And we're talking months of these millions upon millions of shares per day where 60 to 80 to 85 to 90% of the fucking volume was sold short and failed to deliver. That was your smoking gun. Because there was an arbitrage opportunity. Short sell AMC, buy APE, wait for the conversion date. It was free money. It was free money. And then shorts got to buy back at, what was it, 60 something cents per share? Anywho, yeah. It's just madness, man. Madness. I don't even want to go there. It really makes me sad. It's frustrating. It's really fucking frustrating. So those were the two times that naked short selling that I can say confirmed happened. The data backs it. The resulting effects in the market back it. The amendments from the SEC and FINRA and other regulatory bodies backs it. And yeah, that's about all I got. I'm starving. I've been home. I want to go say hello to the wifey and chill out for a little bit, eat some Taco Bell, and go to bed, and do this again tomorrow. Possible live stream, we'll see. I love you guys, and subscribe to Only Flows and subscribe to the channel, or else. Bye.